Hello, everyone. Back with episode 4, I believe, of developing a trend following system. Um, been a few days since I was able to make any progress on this, but I did make some today and wanted to give you some updates. So I left off on episode 3 where I showed a test of the outside bets performance on 1,000 spins versus the dozens and column performance. And we talked about how the performance of the dozens and columns was decent. It was just quite volatile, and so I was going to spend some time trying to reduce that volatility and see if just to see if pursuing the dozens and columns was worth it. So that's what I've done. So the first thing I've sort of added, I I was playing with something else when this thought crossed my mind. I had built a 2 dozen sheet to test out a 24 number system. Actually, the one I used on my video about what I think of the 24 number system. Anyways, I realized that not only could I model the performance of the individual dozens, like here, dozen one, dozen two, and dozen three. In this case, today's video, I'm only going to be talking about the dozens. I've left the columns out for now, just because it's too much data at once. So just on dozens. But anyway, I noticed not only could you focus on the performance of the dozens, but you could also focus on the performance of uh, the following the winner. So whichever dozen came out last. So on this chart here, so we're looking at data from, I believe this is 100 spins. 100 spins. So here, excuse me, on this top chart, the orange line is the performance if you were playing following the winner. The blue line is the performance if you were playing the dozen that I'm calling it missing, but it's the dozen that hasn't come out in the most times. And then the gray line is what I just labeled middle. So it's the one that's come out not last but second to last. If that hopefully that makes sense. But I recognize that you could track the performance of those along with just playing the straight up dozens, because sometimes, although in this example, dozen two just went on a huge run. Sometimes one of these is the one that goes on a huge run, like just the missing dozen will go on a huge run, or just follow the winner will go on a huge run. So anyway, I added that capability, and I found that it's really helpful, mostly just in giving you more opportunities to play. So anyway, I'm not going to go over all the intricacies because I've made a lot of changes to the algorithm on this, but basically I realized I it's particularly hard to reduce the volatility in this. As I was testing and testing and testing, I just could not. I mean, I was reducing it a little, but not enough that I would wanna play it, if that makes sense. Um, so then I started, just going through, charts, and, I kept seeing this pattern right here, and this is obviously, so this is the results if you flat betted, the algorithm based on these 100 spins. So I was like, "Okay, well, I really only wanna be involved playing, um, when we get something like this, right? Of course, you're gonna get faked out sometimes. You've gotta you can't predict the future. So if it starts out like this does in the first 10, you don't necessarily know it's gonna end up like this. It could just roll over. So you're gonna still, be vulnerable to the fake outs. But still, unless it has a chance of developing into this right here, I don't want to play. So that's how I have modified the play algorithm. Okay, secondly, I after making these updates today, I went ahead and did a test of about, I'll share the exact number in a minute, but it was about 2,500, not 2,500 spins, a little bit more than 2,500 spins, but 2,500 plays, just to see the performance and to show you guys. But also, I got the idea. I remembered that long ago I put together a spreadsheet that was for progression testing. So it basically, you put in your win loss results, and it showed you the outcome for a whole bunch of different progressions. And I was like, oh, I wonder if I can find that. So I found it, plugged it into here. Um, how did that happen? There we go. Plugged it into here so I could see, just see which of the progressions actually, which of the progressions that I happen to have in here. Of course, I don't have them all. Which one did the best? Because so far in the testing, I've just been using Oscar's grind because it seemed to be working well. But if there's something better, of course, I'd rather use that. So anyway, I plugged that into here, plugged the results. I did, let me show you exactly how many results. So 2,490 actual results. So it's probably a little bit more than 2,800 spins or so, 2,700 spins. Um, and I am actually very, very impressed with these results. So over 2,500 actual plays. This is the flat bet result, which I don't know. I mean, this might not be that impressive unless you've done a lot of testing like I have, but it's pretty difficult to get a flat bet result look like this over this many spins. I don't know if I've ever done it before over this many. Maybe I have, but if I have, I don't remember. So anyway, it's pretty dang remarkable. So when you have a flat bet result like this, you're going to be able to really leverage the returns with a good progression. So anyway, this progression tester's got flat bet, of course. It's got half peak, which if you don't know what half peak is, it's just a Lambert, but you start with a higher. Your bet one is higher than 1 unit. So here I've got it set to where it's just 5 units. But if I change this to a one, it's effectively just a DeLambert. You start out at one, but half peak is just, yeah, again, you start higher. Typical Oscar's grind. This is a progression called Dance, but it's more made for real short term stuff, so it didn't, it's not really applicable to this. This is La Boucherie, which just didn't perform well. This is up 2, down 3. This is a modified martingale. So I modified it by, instead of doubling on the losses, it multiplies your previous bet by 0.33 and then rounds up. If that makes sense. So you can see it goes from 1 to 2, for example, because it just with 0.33, you go to 1.33, but I got it on a round up to the nearest hole. So that's what that is. Paroli, 1324, Fibonacci, the Stern method, and one called Mr. Magic. I made this so long ago that I don't even remember what this was, but it was something I did a long time ago. Maybe some of you know what that is, but I honestly I don't remember. But anyway, so I'm analyzing these, and one of the best stats that I like to look at is it's the return on the maximum drawdown. So it's taking your maximum, your peak balance, and dividing it by your maximum drawdown. So what that means is, if the system draws down by 100 units, if you can't get a row, I'm calling it ROMAD. If you can't get a ROMAD of over 1, meaning your return isn't at least 100 units, that's kind of sucky. And preferably, I like to see it even over 2. I mean, that's really good. But under 1, and I'm not really interested in playing it. Obviously, the better. Another reason this is a good indication, because it gives you a good indicator if you can leverage the system well. Um. So yeah. So you can see just a flat bet on this performed really quite well. Half peak had decent results, but you would have to use a really small unit because, look, I mean, the max drawdown was 29, call that 30,000 units. So, I mean, you'd be having to use like a 10-cent unit. So that's, not really realistic, although you could use a 10-cent unit, if you wanted in some places. Oscar's grind. So let's switch the chart over here. Oscar's grind did quite well. It had one pretty decent sized hiccup here. You can see that the max drawdown was 893 units. That's more than I like to see. And so as you can see, the ROMAD score is barely over 1. So actually, it would be better just to in this case, it would be better to flat bet because it has a higher romance score, and just increase your unit size. So that was a bit surprising. I would have thought that the Oscars grind would have been better than flat, but not in this case. These two didn't perform well. Up two, down three, kind of similar to the half peak. Obviously, it did well. It's got a high romad, but your max drawdown is huge. It's 120,000 units, so that means yeah, you can't use that. Um, Modified martingale, honestly, quite impressive. Still don't know if I would use it. Well, definitely I wouldn't use it. It's got a romad score of less than 1. And even though it's modified to where you're not doubling every time, so you do take a little bit of a loss, as you can see, you know, still, I mean, you're better off just flat betting and scaling up your unit because of the romad. Paroli didn't perform very well. That's what that looked like. 1324, not very good. Now, here's the one that surprised me the most. I have, in all my years of testing, I don't think I've ever tested a system where the Fibonacci turned out well. But believe it or not, as you can see with a Romad score of 3.34, it was by far the best performing progression on here. And I mean, I can't believe it. I'm shocked by that. Look at that. I mean, that is really impressive. Like, I'm pretty stoked about that. And just surprised again, surprised that that performed well. I don't know. I didn't expect that. What do you guys think? Have you ever seen a system where Fibonacci works well over a longer stretch? Because I haven't. There's another one called the Stern method. You can look it up on YouTube if you want. It did okay, 124. In terms of romance, similar to the flat. You know, nice. Um, but obviously with this, I would be playing Fibonacci for sure. And then the Mr. Magic thing. It does well sometimes. It's extremely volatile though, so obviously you wouldn't choose that one. But anyway, what do you guys think? It's seems to be looking pretty good, and just wondering if you guys are as surprised as I am by the performance of this Fibonacci. I guess maybe it just did so well because this just performs so well on the flat, like that. Maybe that's why the Fibonacci did so well. Because honestly, the expected value on 2,500 spins for a flat bet would be probably negative, I don't know, several hundred. And so this is positive 57. So you're outperforming, this outperformed the expected value tremendously. Um, anyway, so that's where I'm at. Those are the updates I made today. Things are looking pretty interesting. Hope you enjoyed it. Let me know in the comments what you think. If you got any ideas, got any just general comments, let me know. If you liked it, give me a thumbs up. Other than that, I'll